Ancient Hawaiian Healing, Episode 1, An Introduction to Ho'oponopono. Hello and welcome everyone to this first video, An Introduction to Ho'oponopono with Harry Uhane Jim. Harry is, as some of you may know, a kahuna from Hawaii and a Lomi Lomi practitioner and has been for many years. So I'm happy that we can meet today from the comfort of our homes during this pandemic to speak about one of the key ideas and practices of Hawaiian healing, Ho'oponopono, and talk about why it's so important today to connect ourselves with this practice. So Harry, maybe let's start with the basics. What is Ho'oponopono in general?
Even if this is informal, I just want to say thank you, Lucia. Thanks for hanging out with me for the time we're here. Take a deep breath with me. Ho'oponopono is a big word in a small language. So let's just take it root value. Ho is to move forward generally as a direction. Ho is to move forward with intention, force, and divine capacity. Pono, to move forward to make things all right. Pono, to make things all clear. Ho'oponopono is to make things prepared for creation, to clear it up so that your intentions manifest without resistance.
How does it come that generally we're talking about Ho'oponopono in terms of forgiveness and in terms of reconciliation? But I think what you suggested right now is that there is a movement, when you describe the word, that there's...
Put that in a visual terms and in an English context. I want to say it this way, and it's okay to laugh because it's kind of meant to embrace that paradox. And what I want to say is there's two kinds of forgiveness, now or later. And so knowing that there's a clear division between what's happening now and what will happen later, you can also see that everything is either forgiven or unforgiven. It's either now or later. When you add that up with the truth that all unforgiveness is grief, then you might be able to understand that if you can find a way to clear all of that energy, you'll have a chance to create a space where light can receive and growth can happen and outcomes can change.
What is the Ho'oponopono tradition and the way that you learned it?
I'm a Lomi practitioner. I touch heal. I manipulate body, skin, emotions to come to the outcome of healed. I help people do that, mostly by coaching the right context. So we use Ho'oponopono to identify source, which is the beginning of time. Since that time, we've all been connected to time by our families, our lineage. And very often, much of what disturbs us is historical trauma coming from DNA, from others' experience. So again, that's just something that you can sense or feel or many times unexplainably understand that there might be a way to resolve that. And Ho'oponopono is our Hawaiian way, which is to acknowledge clarity between connection of who you are and where you are coming from, between now and the beginning of time. And so that's one way of appreciating Ho'oponopono. There are several. And I want to tell you, kind of like a good recipe, there are versions all over the world. Hawaii itself has many different subcultural Ho'oponoponos. On Oahu, Ho'oponopono is much dealt with as a mediation form. On the Big Island, it's a resolution form. On the island of Kauai, it's more meditative and mind. So every island has developed its own historical pasture of where people understand Ho'oponopono. So yeah, that's a broad way of saying it.
What you're also describing now are different parameters of time. You're talking about historical trauma, about lineage, about the future, and about the past.
We really understand the world from our map. Our map says that there are two different kinds of time that we live in. The horizontal time we'll see is the one you and I are sharing. We're going from one moment to the next. And the time that we're talking about in Ho'oponopono is the vertical time. That's the time where all time exists, all relatives exist. In Hawaiian language, it's called po, P-O, where all things are. For many in the Western world, po is heaven. It's the vertical time is the presence of all time now. And Ho'oponopono drives you to understand that we Hawaiians live in both the horizontal time and the vertical time at the same time. So we have access to that by understanding that vertical time is union with your divine, your soul, and your soul's connection to all that is in the universe. So I hope that helps. Let me make it really clear. There is horizontal time, which is the one we're sharing, and vertical time, which is the one that is always here between us and our soul and us and the universe. It's that moment that you get to when you're, riding a surfboard 10 miles an hour on a wave, or when you just know that you're just about to hit that golden moment of a strike on a bowling game, or when the ball connects to the baseball bat and you can feel a home run. That's the vertical moment of real connection with yourself and your presence. And that awareness is what we call vertical time.
The vertical time in Ho'oponopono, is that something that we access through Ho'oponopono?
Absolutely. Ho'oponopono drives the access, because Ho'oponopono asks for the divine's intervention. And divine's intervention is always experienced in vertical time.
Can you name a couple of images or words or phrases or sentences are in your Ho'oponopono practice?
I can. I think the first one to really understand is when I say this word, I hope that you can feel the urgency of not just need, but rightful place. And the word I want to say is help. that experience of requesting help is the first step in Ho'oponopono. So that would be a cool key word, to identify that place where your power source is by humility, being vulnerable to change from vertical experience, asking in prayer to heaven. In the Western world, prayer is a very mental experience. And in the Polynesian world, it's a physical experience, meaning you will feel that you're asking for help. And the thought is not as valued. That will bring you to what we call vertical time. Because the solution to achieving a life of spirituality is to live in both the horizontal experience and in the grace of vertical time, the divine. And all of the gods and all of the different representations of ascendants all represent that same context.
How can we take away from the idea of confronting someone when we want to forgive them?
I've been consulting with Ho'oponopono for a couple of decades now. People will always come with this kind of circumstance. They come to me and they say, I have this fish to fry. Can we make a fire? I said, sure, we can make a fire. And after 6 or 7 times, I say, hey, Harry, I have this new fish to fry and I want you to help me make this fire to cook the fish. I said, okay, but I can help you make an oven with a stove. So you can just turn the oven on yourself. And they say, really? Yeah, really. Because Ho'oponopono is about learning how to do in your human skill set the change of energy. And this is the premise of that. It's like many cultures haven't really defined what they're doing on planet Earth. And Hawaiians have said since day one, we're here to convert negative energy into positive energy. And that's actually the mother's call, Pele, Gaia, land, earth, all the same. We're here to help Mother Earth convert negative energy into positive energy. It's the only thing that we only can do on planet Earth. We all consume here, every animal, every being, but the human is capable of converting that energy. And Ho'oponopono in the Hawaiian way is that capacity. And so returning to that place where you know that the reason this experience is in front of you is so that you can convert it into a positive experience, not necessarily for your witness, but for the service of the human experience. And so how do you do that? Let's get back to how do you actually take a circumstance of force or pressure on someone else and give that energy some direction. Everybody's always talked about this one, and that's where this piece comes in, is that I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. This idea that when you say I'm sorry, you're actually asking Christ or divine or any deity of your experience to literally give you attention. The I'm sorry is, I'm sorry, please, I'm giving you an attention. I see something that I think I am sorry to see. Basically, that's what it's saying. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Please forgive me for taking some attention from you, the divine. And thank you for dealing with this thing that's out of my capacity. So I hand it to you. And by the way, I love you. And so that's one statement that always seems to connect people with their vertical humility, driving in that force that changes things. I'm suggesting another one because Hawaiians do often have different kinds of places to go with that kind of energy. No, is to see yourself sweeping a room empty, but just sweeping the dust in the room until all the dust is out of the room. Whatever the problem is, just bring your attention to where there's a next place to clear or clean. When you're doing that with your mind, your subconscious will have a chance to organize itself to following your pattern, your attention pattern, and actually bringing that energy, which is uncomfortable, discorded, and find some organized way of lifting it up in a way. So that I would suggest to many people who are actually tactile invested in, meaning they respond to or learn from touch. The broom really helps as a technique. But for those who respond to fiery or responsive energies or thoughts, the better choice would be to have always a little bonfire up on the corner, a place where you can throw thoughts that belong to be converted into other energies. Simple fire where you can actually throw stuff in that you know belongs to the past. These things are all part of how you sustain your connection with your vertical time, your spiritual connection. All those things mean the same thing.
Intention is a word that is coming up a lot. And
Yeah.
I think I want to take a minute to talk about how do we set and find the right intention for us.
The first thing to do is to really appreciate that your intention, your full force of intention is not in your mind. Can you imagine that your whole body, half of the force of intention does not communicate in English?
Yeah, I can sort of feel that sometimes when I try to set an intention, for example, I get frustrated because it doesn't feel like it hits everything.
Manifestation is a formula, body plus mind. It's also a process of mind following spirit. I'm going to say that again. Manifestation is body plus mind. And manifestation will move forward on the light of spirit, your soul. So when we're talking about how to hold intention, most human capacity is holding intention in the mind, but that's only half the game. The other intention is in the body. The connecting part in Hawaiian culture is the word aloha. The breath of God is in our presence. This is where Ho'oponopono really gets seriously important and simple. That your mind and body belong connecting in the breath, the breath of God. What Hawaiians have noticed is when you put what you're thinking about and what you're feeling about on the breath, you come to a center point at the bottom of your breath. Lucia, do that with me. The simple stillness, that place and point where the pendulum begins to stay simply still in the second of that moment, then continues on the path of responding to gravity. That moment is where the body and mind come to meet the intention. And the motivation of the mind is fed by the body. The gut, the na'au, your emotional center. In modern language, it's becoming to be understood as the vagus nerve. But Hawaiians have appreciated that your ability to manifest an intention is about feeling it into reality. And you feed it with Ho'oponopono. Keep clearing in front so that the body is safe, the mind is safe to play into the construction of your thought. Miracles are always possible, but they're a lot of hard work because it's homework. Miracles are homework. Applying the superpower of attending both what your body needs and your mind needs all in the same time. So yeah, Ho'oponopono can be complicated, but it can be as simple as joining the breath with the body and the mind.